This conference will now be recorded.
I just want to lose the recording. Then we worked on screen visibility. The screen visibility had different ways to use the when rules. Then we had visibility criterias. We also came to know how to create classes. Okay. Then we came to it and we did some part of report definition, how to fetch reports, right? Simple report from the work object. Okay. And then after that, we understood what is PY work page. We did an example. Then we went to activities. In activities, we understood OBJ save. OBJ save helped us to understand how work object is stored, how we can alternatively store into a DB because work object information is not available. Then we also did OBJ open to how to open a record using activities. They also did some part of like property set. We also played around with what is a parameter, how the parameter works. Okay, as part of this whole exercise, we did a big one, which is kind of a search functionality. Right, that itself takes 2 classes for us to understand what is a search functionality. Right. Then I also told you guys to do what is OBJ browse, check what is OBJ browse. So this is kind of your homework. What else we did? So that's what we came with report definition, we came with activities, we came with screen flow action, all those things. So we also know about initially we know about, you guys also know about hierarchy, org structure, what's a class group. It's all in my notes. What's a class group, how is a DB, tables laid out. Okay, so we did all those kind of things, which is quite a good progress. So we are, activities is not yet completed. Activities will be going on as we proceed. So we need to understand. So there is something called as OBJ open by handle. You guys also should try OBJ delete. Okay, it's very simple. You just take a record, like you do an OBJ open, and you do an OBJ open. You open the record, and you lock the record and do an OBJ delete. To try to do this, if everything I give you, then this doesn't make fun, right? Even if you fall into issues, it is good that you fall into issues and you come back to me with questions. Okay, so OBJ browse and OBJ delete, please do as a homework. See, if you guys don't do, if I only do the work, then it doesn't make sense. So please try this. I want to see that what issues you get into, and if you get into issues, that is fine. That is all you get out. I understand it. So OBJ handle will do a little later because it involves a little, we need to have PEGA dynasty and do manipulation, because you can only open records using PEGA dynasty. What else we did? We also did some configuration, right? What all configuration we did? We changed the case. We did a dynamic case ID. Then we did we created our version, and we did check in check out, right? Right, guys? So we covered so much topics, and it is a good progress. And if you have any doubts, and I suppose you guys are on par with what I'm doing. That is your kind of, I mean, that's how you progress. It's all up to you how you want to progress ahead. So I can only guide you, and I can tell you how to take it ahead. So you guys practice well. You'll be on par with me. You guys research more. You can be more ahead of me. So that's how it goes. So, so any doubts on all this? Do let me know. So we are going to go to a new topic called as databases. Okay. So for that we need to do some theoretical part because you have to understand what is databases. Anything we missed in this list, guys? Babu, Babu or Shrikant, anybody? Why people are quiet today? You guys are able to hear me, right?
Yeah, sure.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything you guys think I missed here, which we did and we did not, might mention here?
I don't think we have missed
Only
anything.
about rule set and other things, right?
Yeah. So that is where this one comes, now. The created
You
version.
can check out.
That's correct. That's correct. But
Yeah. This
on
here
the
rule set will
topic
come.
wise, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Here rule set will come. So for rule set, I just wanted to, I forgot to mention one thing. There's something called as rule set delegation. You know what's a rule set delegation? So rule set delegation, I don't know how we can work it out, but try to do some reading on rule set delegation. So what is rule set delegation? So what happens is, suppose now we talk about PEGA being very dynamic, ready to build for change, right? Suppose any change comes into the system, and you don't have time, time to do the whole cycle of testing and then so rolling out in each environment. Suppose suppose I'm giving you a real example. The government suddenly changes its policies. For example, recently they said that KYC, suppose 10 years back they said that KYC is very important, and all this banking process never had a KYC in their flow whenever you want to create an account. Suddenly, government comes and says from next month onwards, KYC is important. So implementing KYC is not that simple because KYC has so many things. You need to have all your verification done, background verification done. You need to have somebody actually check your documents and then sign. You need to send some hard copies or soft copies, whatever it is. So implementing a KYC inside a flow which is not there is not that easy. Now suppose if there is a BPM flow, let me mute you all. Suppose there is the BPM process is being implemented and you have to bring this change, so suppose I am at, what is today's date? Suppose I am 20th November, or I am at 21st November. Government says that, and all, so government comes and says by 1st Jan, your 1st Jan, KYC is important. Okay, I'm talking about a banking process flow. So when government comes with a rule, the banks have to be ready with the KYC flow by 1st of Jan. But here I'm on 21st November. Okay, and during 21st November, I'm talking about a bank called as Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, or any other bank which is running. It's a running bank, and in this bank, on 21st November, as of 21st November, the ongoing customer, which are there's a account creation process. Okay, the account creation process in the account creation flow on at that point of time, that is on today, we have at least 300 customers, 300 odd customers trying to create an account, right? They're doing some verification, they're trying to understand. It is not like a one day process, right? Creating an account. Nowadays they say that create an account in 5 minutes, but I don't think that is really possible because you need to do a lot of things. So, so at 21st November, what do you have? Account creation process is running, right? This is one process, this is flow. And Bank of America, Wells Fargo is using PEGA BPM. And on 21st November, 300 odd customers are trying to create PFI. This is if the flow has 10 steps, if this is my flow and the account creation process has many steps, and then this steps comes to an end. So some customers are here, some customers are here in the flow, 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 right? Out of the 300 odd, various people are at various stages, but not yet completed the account creation, right? And suddenly government says by 21st Jan your KYC is important. So the bank has to be ready with it, right? The bank has to do something so that it has to be ready with it. So how do we do? There's one process that somebody implements the KYC process. Somebody implements a KYC process like this. So suppose this is my KYC process, and I call this as KYC. Okay. So what I do, I want to implement this KYC process. This is my KYC process. Now, if I want to implement this KYC process, I need to plug in this process somewhere inside. So I'll plug in this process somewhere here as a sub process. So we'll come and work on sub process. So this workflow will run. This will call this KYC process, it will complete and go back to here. Go back to this step and then you'll go continue, right? So I want to introduce this. I want to introduce this process before 1st Jan. So what are the different things we have? So what are the different ways we have? First is implement, somebody works on this KYC process, then plugs in here, right? And in development he tests this, in production and tests this, and then in then actually they move it to, that's a normal process. But do we have time? Probably we don't have time. So what they do is they have a concept called as rule set delegation. What they do is, suppose you are working on, I mean this topic is actually should be taken later, but just keep in mind sometimes you can go and read it. There'll be topics like rules for delegation, so you should understand what they're talking about. So what happens is, suppose you have your rule set for Tesla vehicle, Tesla auto is basically that, suppose your version 02/05/23. You understand what I'm trying to say is second major version, fifth minor version, and 23 very minor version. Okay, suppose your application is in this version and introducing, so we are going to introduce something called as, we want to introduce this KYC process. So what these people will do is they will they will not go and create all this from production to, because there's already development going on along. Suppose I want to implement KYC, remember this is on the fly and we have not anticipated or never planned for this, because this came into picture because government made a regulation. So we have to incorporate this, and every bank wants to do this on the fly. Of course customer would be paying for it, but then it's a regulatory requirement, it's a compliance, and everybody has to follow it. So there's no way out of it. You have to do it, and you have limited time. So what do you do? And also remember, along with this, there's other there are other planned activities in the pipeline. So people are all busy. So there is something called dual delegation. What happens in dual delegations? What they will do, they'll create a version called as 02/05, and they'll create a version called as 05/04/24. And in that version they will create this KYC rule, and and then tag it to this version. So when I came in, we'll create a new rule set. Okay, all the other rule sets are in the lower version. I'll create this KYC, this flow, and tag it to this 24 version, the latest version. Okay, and I'll quickly test this version because others are all in the older version, and then just move it to production and give it, and then assign it to, I can assign to specific roles so that they use it, test it, and then roll it out. So it becomes very specific, and others are not disturbed because this rule set is tagged to this rule. It is only visible to some set of people because I can control it. It is tested quickly by some set of people. It is rolled out quickly and given to the customer in time. without disturbing other releases. So that is called as rule set delegation. Why delegation? Because you're delegating a new rule to a specific people for testing, for using. So you can have, you can also have a specific rule set like 02, 05, 25, okay, and tag some rules to it and have them some roles to it. And the rules in the sense people to it. So only they can use it. So you can delegate that role to some particular people so that use it, see it, work it out, and then make it general availability later on. You know what's a GA, right? GA release later on. Okay. Understand what is rule delegation? To try to read. Yeah.
Shiva, how is it different from creating a separate? We are just creating a new version of the same rule, right? This 020524 is nothing but a new version of rule set Tesla Auto. But the only thing is like it has not been applied to everyone.
Yes. So how different means, see, this rule set, suppose you have 100 rules in your system. Customer, I mean, this since you have created 100 different flows or sections or flow actions, whatever rules you have, right? Right now you want to implement this. I'll just create this rule inside this rule set, right? And I've assigned this rule set to specific roles in the system. Okay, then I will delegate. So when I assign to specific rules, I'm delegating this rule set to a specific set of users, and then I move it to production for where the things are, specific rules users are using it, business users are using it, and they're very well able to incorporate what is needed. And I'm not disturbing whatever is going on. No? This rule set may not be locked. There's still work going on in this rule set, right?
So it's like you
So
are creating a separate branch of it.
yeah, the branches. Yeah, so there is a different branches concept is little different. Don't if you in PEGA there is a concept of branching, but I'll come to that later. Branching is different because see what is branching. See, let me explain you this. I'll come to branching. See, did you understand what I'm trying to tell here? See, what is happening is, suppose see customers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Barclays Bank, they have multi release environment. You know what is multi release? So so at one point of time, suppose you're talking about Android application also. At one point of time, there'll be a team which is working release one, and there'll be a team which is working release two. There'll be a team working in release three. And I'm talking about real case scenario. Barclays Bank we used to have when I used to work for Accenture. In Barclays Bank we used to have 4 releases running it parallelly at one time. So release one is already into production, but we are doing some CRs here. Release two is already into production. We are doing some fixing some bugs here. Okay, release 3 is going on. So release 3 is that's a stage 4. And release 4, it's a stage 1. So there are 4 teams working on the same release, and the production platform is one. You have one, every team is working. What is your production? Your production server is only one, right? And cluster is fine. I'm not talking about the cluster. Production environment is only one. All the things these guys do are going here. Is it not? Right? So when these kind of situations happen, so why I'm telling you this is, so there are different teams working parallelly at different stages and then trying to release here. Okay, when these situations happen, then we create branches in the application. You understand what's the branches? So if this guy, if the CR applications work by 10 people as a 10 developer, I'll create a branch here. I'll create a branch here like this in the application. I'll create a branch for them. I'll create a branch for them. I'll create a branch for them. Okay, so they all will do parallel development. And once I want to release, there is a concept called as merging of the branches. Then we merge the branches. When I merge the branches, the conflicting code, suppose this guy is working on a CR and the same CR, this guy is working, this stage 4 is being worked upon. So when you merge the branches, then it will tell you that there's a conflict. So the configuration manager has to sit with this guy and sit with this guy and understand what code has to be moved into production. So they are that are branches. You understand what is branches I'm talking about? So I create branches so that people can work on. So this, if I create a branch here, suppose this here, this guy is working on customer info flow.
Shiva,
Okay.
I'm very much clear with the branching concept. This
Okay.
question is
So
more
yeah,
with
yeah,
regards to, yeah.
yeah. Please come again. Please come again then. Because you said branches, so I got confused.
No. My question was like, the only thing different over here is you have created a new rule set version and you have
Mm,
mapped it to specific role, right?
correct. Correct.
But when you say rule set delegation, I still did not understand what exactly you meant. I
So
mean, that
so
particular
dele
specific.
Yeah. So what happened? Delegation in the sense, what to do is you have. So basically, the concept came from. So suppose this KYC example, right? This KYC has to be has to be run in production by a specific set of business users, correct? So if there are different business roles in the application, for example, there is account account creation, what do you call, the banking staff who basically create the accounts, right? Then there is a banking approval manager who approves the account. So different roles are there, right, in the banking organization. So this KYC I will delegate to a particular role, for example banking staff. And once I delegate to the particular role, and I put my code there in that particular rule set, it has gone to that particular role, and it has gone to that particular rule set, and they're going to use it. The other, suppose there are 10 different type of roles running in the banking account. The other 9 roles did not worry about it. The person who is really responsible, I can delegate to it by using this scenario,
It's
right?
more
On
like
this,
the super user of that particular application thing, right? I mean, wherein the super user has got some special privileges and he can enforce some business specific business processes for certain scenarios.
see, imagine this way. So in your this banking account process, what all you can think of, different roles. One is the banking staff, right? Who,
Yeah.
what else you can think of?
And then we may have
Manager approval.
managers,
So
yeah, managers approval.
then then what do you want? What else we can think of?
We need to appoint a separate KYC team since it came into effect.
Yeah. So
So,
so suppose it's a KYC team, okay,
yeah,
and then you have some background check guys, okay,
yeah,
on field, okay.
okay,
Uh, then you have the admin guy, okay, who wants to do all those paperwork.
okay.
Okay, suppose these are the people. Now this KYC process, I only want this person to handle, right? Why should I bother all these people, right?
Correct.
So I'll create this process and only delegate to this guy, KYC team. So so remember, the versions that is running now, it's all lower version. I create a new upper version. Okay, I'll tag it to this particular team. I create this process very fatafat, and then I move it to production, and this team is actually using it without disturbing other, because there are other developments going on. Other banking staff has their own set of process, right? Own set of things which are going on.
But we could do this even with the use of access groups, right?
Access groups, yes. See, access groups, yes, but this really rule set is required, right? I'm going with a new release, right? I'm not disturbing the existing release.
Okay.
Hmm? Try to do some reading. Okay, come out with more questions if you have. Try to do some reading of the rule kit delegation. Okay, probably the concept gets more clear. So the rules set delegation, the build for change concept is where they try to apply here. I'll give you some articles on that. If you want. Okay, so we
Just
just
one
leave
more
it as
question. Just one more
yeah, yeah.
question. Is this kind of a newly introduced in 7.4 or something, or has it
No,
been
it is
there?
all. It's already there. It's already there. Build for change is already there as a concept, and rule set delegation is already there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go to data page concept. Maybe we'll focus on theory today. I just need to fix one thing, okay, because last time that's why the server is throwing error. You see that, right? Server is going on throwing errors. Just a minute. Just a minute. So Samir, maybe I'll give you some more examples for rules and delegation. Actually, this topic we should have taken a little later, so that we cover some grounds on rule sets and rules and delegation. But that's fine. Maybe I'll give you some more examples to make things clear. Okay, sounds good, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But this is a very important topic. Keep that in mind. They will ask you, what is the rules of delegation? What is the rules of resolution? So there is also a topic called as resolution algorithm. Okay, which we'll do a little bit later. Okay, so now let's go to what is data page. Now, what's a data page? Data page is a very important concept. Okay, suppose now this is my PEGA application. Why others are very quiet? Nowadays, Babu is very quiet. I think Babu doesn't like my teaching. Huh?
Not at all.
Your voice is very low. Okay, so what happens in our application? Suppose I have one screen. Just a minute. Huh? Kriti. Okay, see. So in PEGA application, we have this. So we have this PEGA application. We have this database. So suppose you are searching some information from the database. It goes from here to the clipboard, and then clipboard serves you, right? How is that? You create the pages, right? When your activity, when you said create OBJ open, and when you are filtering from that, you created two pages, right? One is search page, search ID page, but one is search results page, and then you saw that just a minute. Okay, so what we saw is when we are suppose we are running this OBJ open, so we when we try to open from the database, the clipboard we create two pages, right? What all pages we created? We created a page called as search bank search ID sec, right? That was for the top page. Then we made a bank results sec, right? These are the sorry this is a page. We created different pages. When we did vehicle when we did automobile, we also did automobile page. We also did claims page, right? Right, these two also pages we created when we were retrieving information or when we are putting information. So what are these pages? These pages are called user pages, correct? This concept is clear, right? There was not a confusion about this, right? So what are these user pages? It goes and creates the clipboard. Now what's a clipboard? You guys know clipboard sits somewhere in between. When you want to put information in the database or get information on the database, it sits and store like a temporary information. This is a temporary information, right? For example, when you did obj save, you did property set. Before that, you did property set. It actually set the variables for the when it is a property set, it went to primary dot first name, primary dot last name. It all did property set. When you do property set again, the property set is going here only. And then when you did obj save, it actually committed to the database. So clipboard is a very good place where all the information is kept, right, as a temporary storage. More not only it's a debugging tool, it's also a place where it's a kind of a memory where things are stored temporarily and then stored to the database and also available for your information, to leverage and understand how it is. Clear? Is that clear? Now what happens? Suppose, so I'll give you a scenario. You have a screen, which is you have developed a screen here, which is kind of your where what we did for OBJ save. We created a new customer or new bank account, right? So this is you're creating a new bank account. This is the flow, okay? Or you're creating a new customer, whatever, any object. You're creating a new customer. So in this case of scenario, and so I'm having a flow like this. Now PEGA is being used by, suppose I have 1,000 users. 1,000 users also, I'm talking very less. What I will say is 1,000 concurrent users. You know what's a concurrent users, right? People actually logged in now and trying to create this customer. So 1,000 users are using this application. So this 1,000 users create the flow, right? The 1,000 users go and hit the clipboard. Every user goes and tries to access the clipboard. Will create so many pages for each one of them, and 1,000 times this thousand references of the pages have to be created. 1,000 times this database will be hit, right, to get the information back and forth, right? So it's a very huge resourcing process. And already you must have heard some already Oracle. If you look at Oracle as a database, initially when Oracle was very powerful, now also it's powerful. So initially when Oracle was quite powerful, they introduced a concept of serving the pages from the cache. So they used to not go and physically hit the database, they used to cache it. And even any similar information is being requested, they give it from the cache. They actually don't physically go to the database and get the information. So same information is being done over here. So what they do is, so when you have a repeated kind of information here in the database incoming, when you have 1,000 set of users, you create something called as data page. So what is a data page? A data page is again, a data page is something when you define a page as a, this is also user page. Suppose the same page, bank search ID page, you define as a data page. So what the system will do? The first request comes to the system, it will take the records and put it in a data page here. So suppose this is a data page. As soon as you hit the database and you got the request in the application side. So this is my, so suppose, yeah. So this suppose this is my this is my client, okay. This guy is my client. Client means this is my browser, okay. When I say browser, this becomes myself. This is a client. So the client hits the application. This is my application, okay. This is my browser, and I'm requesting for there are 1,000 users sitting out here. So 1,000 users this is my 1,000 user base from different locations and different browsers. It hits my application, goes to the clipboard, gets the data from database. So 1,000 times it has to get everything. So suppose I'm talking about I have this bank search, right? Suppose simple as finding the bank. If I give a IFSC code, I just need to get the bank name. I just need to get the name, the location, the bank address, and all those kind of information which you see already on the system, right? Suppose that is a kind of information, and that information is actually useful for all the user bases, all the clients, all the bank, Wells Fargo business users, because they want to understand which account was opened for which branch, and that's the information which can share with anybody. That's not secretive to anybody. So such kind of information you have to get And if that information is very requested very frequently, and that is going to get a lot of hits on the database. So what to do is, as soon as, so we'll create a data page and we'll say that this is bank IFSC code search. If this is the functionality I want to create, I will say that a bank IFSC code search is a data page. As soon as I define it, what will happen is somebody tries to request it, it will actually hit, it will hit the application first. It will hit the application first. It will go to the clipboard, of course. It will go to the database. It will get the information back to the clipboard. It will serve to the customer once. Okay. Next time somebody hits, this is not going to occur. Neither this is going to occur. It's not going to hit the database again. The application, see, clipboard is a part of the application. When I say clipboard, it is still part of the application, right? This is part of one, clipboard is in the part of one application only. Okay. So the next time the first person hits, of course, you have to get from the database. Second person hits with the same information. Okay. It will never go to the database. It is going to actually internally manage, application internally manage and give it. So this 999 users, 998 users is going to hit next with the same information. It's never going to hit here. So that's where, the resources, the network, you are avoiding huge network traffic. You are avoiding database hits. You are managing it internally. Okay, and you're giving the information. Okay, so that is the concept of database. You're getting me? There are more to it, but I just want to make you understand the basic concept. Guys, you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Ask me. Yeah, can you ask me questions, or I mean, I'm not forcing you to ask questions. I thought you will have more questions on this.
So this comes in handy, like for instance, I mean, in only those scenarios wherein the latest data may not be always needed, right? Because if a person, I mean, if a data page gets created and the data in the database has been changed, then that data becomes stale, right?
Yeah, so that's a good point. I'll come to that point. So depending upon this, okay. So now, if this is, suppose I'm talking a bank IFSC code search. So the new branches which gets created in a bank. Suppose the bank thinks that, every month, on and on and off, at least one bank is getting one new branch is coming into the system. Suppose they know, okay. So what I can do is, there's a concept of, what do you call, database refresh, okay, or the what do you call it as, yeah, this database refresh only, and they call it as flushing strategy. Okay, so when I say refresh strategy or flushing the data, so you can define that every month you flush the existing data and get me a fresh one. So what you can define a time period for it. Once you define a time period, every month it will flush it and get it back for you. Okay, you can also say that, every, you know yeah, so you have to give a duration. So every duration it will flush and get it back for you. Okay, so if you want to do in a very different way, you can use some triggers and do that. But there are other refresh strategies I'll talk about. So there is a concept of refresh strategy where if the data changes, you can refresh your data page. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So now, see, database concept is, I'm not even half explained, and there's another part to it. But before I go to the other part, did you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understood.
Yeah. What about Shrikant and all? Today Shrikant, very quiet. Sudhakar, I hope you guys are not sleeping. So my sound is not giving you a nice sleep, right? What happened? Your audio went off, Sudhakar? Okay. 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 Can we go to the next part? So when I say next part, database only. Okay. Sorry guys, my after that fever, my cough is still there. That's why I'm having a hard time in the morning. Okay. So so okay. So there are three different type of databases. Okay. So the first is called as a thread scope. God, what is this? So one is called as a thread scope. One is called as a requester scope. We are going to work on all this. Huh? So just now, I want to take theory today, and next class we'll create databases. It's called as a node scope. So what is a thread scope? So these are three different types of data page. So when I create a data page, so remember, data page is still a blank page. You have to feed information here. You have to feed information. You have to fetch information using a report definition. Put in that page, so that information is there, and that information is given back to the user. So as a user page is always blank unless until you put information in it, right? Similarly, data page is blank unless and put information in it. The only difference is data page will be stored on the server and given back to the user instead of hitting back to the database. Simple, right? That is what it is. Okay, so there are three different type of data pages. So let me give you this example. Okay, so if this is my flow, okay, so let's understand thread scope. If this is my flow, okay, and I create something here, suppose I created a drop down here. Suppose I have a drop down here of state, and I have a drop down here of city, and so there are three drop downs. Along with many other controls, I have three drop downs. One is country, one is state, and one is city. So as soon as I start the flow, I select a country, I select a city, and I select a state, and I select a city. And I want these three information I want to be retained across my flow. This could be 15-step flow, but I go any point in any flow, this three information whatever I selected should be should be suppose I select India, Maharashtra, and Mumbai. If these three as do a selection initially, these three selections should be maintained across the flow. Any point I retrieve, I should understand that these three were my selection. So I can define this as a data page. I'm just giving a simple example. Okay, so I can define this three information as a data page and configure it so that page will be on the server and it will be given to you anytime across this. So when I say thread scope, remember I'm talking about work object, one case. So remember when I say thread scope, you have to say case scope. The scope is at the scale, at the case level, at the work object level. So if the case is C40, if I'm working on a case called a C40, as soon as a case get finished, this information is flushed out. If I open a case called a C41, the information is again got to the database and then retrieved. So the thread scope is limited to one workflow. What is requester? Now in requester, suppose so this is my one screen in my browser. I open one screen. This is my second tab. This is my third tab. Three tabs. I'm talking about one browser. Okay, this is one browser. The one tab. This is my second tab. And so when I say browser, it is the same session. In the same browser, I open three tabs. And in this each tab, I have different flows. I have one flow here. I have one flow here. When I have one flow here. When I say three different flows, this could be customer information flow. This could be bank search flow. This could be other flow. Okay, in one single browser. Why I'm insisting on browser? To just tell you that this is in one session. Okay, so when I say requester scope, remember I'm talking about one session. The scope is session, while here the thread scope, the scope is work object. In session, in request, the session scope. So suppose I see the same thing. Your what do you call, country, state, and country, state, city. You open in this flow and mark it as a requester scope. The same information, whatever is selected, will be available here, will be available here, because it maintains the information in one session. And whenever we are trying to use the same controls, same data page across, it will never hit the database. It hits first, and then it is retrieved at various places, and it never goes to the database. I'm just giving a simple example. It could be complex information like IFSC code retrieval or any other information. Suppose it could be also, suppose you are you have different, suppose I'm talking about onboarding process. You're in Wells Fargo, you have a customer onboarding process, okay, or you have an employee onboarding process. Suppose you are introducing a new employee for Bank of America, and that employee onboarding process is split into three things. One could be understanding his pay slip, one could be a background check, one could be administration, administration activities. So when I say employee onboarding, the employee details, like employee name, all those generic details, his year of passing, his qualification, all those things which you have, you can put in a data page. That generic information is required here, here, here. So you put it in a data page. It will be retrieved first and then served you in different, uh, you know, flows. It will never hit the database. So you can create that employee information, basic information as a data page, because this employee information for onboarding, needs, if the person is, if the bank, sorry, if the bank Wells Fargo guy needs separate flows and is working on the same session, it will be useful, right? So that becomes your session scope. Then you come to the node scope. What is node scope? The node scope is where multiple users. So same as in the bank IFSC code. So if you want to retrieve generic information like IFSC code, which is not secure to just some set of people, it's available throughout. But then 10,000 users or 20,000 users are trying to access this. Create that page in a node level. Okay, and you can specify a flush here, saying that flush it every month, get me new information, or flush it every 20 days if you're more safe. Okay, so then this is by multiple users. Remember, so this is one user with one flow. This is one user with multiple flows. This is multiple users with one flow. Then one flow, multiple users with same information retrieved at various locations. Make sense? Samir, you ready?
I have a question, so we will be having only one data page with three different scopes. No, we cannot have the one. I mean, you have to set it only one, right? I mean, once you create a data page, you have to either set it to thread scope or request. It cannot have all three of them, right?
One data page, one scope. That's it.
So we can have multiple data pages created, one for thread scope, one for request scope, and one for node scope.
Yeah, it depends upon the business scenario, right? So if you want, so by default, everything is thread scope. When you create a data
Okay.
page, by default is thread scope. You can change the scope. There's a drop down which I'll show you. You can change the scope to as your needs, as per your needs. But don't try to overkill, because if you think that node scope is better because all my purpose is solved if I put node scope. But remember, in node scope, you have to in real environment, there is no one server, that there are multiple clustered environment, right? So when you say node, when you go in an enterprise edition, you have to specify which node this should run from. So the application also have to make configurations, in the sense if the request comes, from which node it has to serve, right? When I say node, imagine you have four clustered environment, four servers serving you. Then you have to also specify which server will actually serve you, right? That information. because that server or that node will be putting in his cache in that server's cache and serving you, right? So it is more complex when you say node scope. So internally it manages, but make sure that you don't overload the system with many things. Yeah, right. So you're also using cache memory, right? The more you suppose this IFC code information or any other information is having huge data, and that's why you are not hitting the database again and again, and that's why you're keeping as a node scope because it's useful for everybody. But likewise, you also have to, you know, take a balance and understand whether if this information of 1,000 records, if it stays on the server, is it good, or if I flush it regularly, it is good, or I keep it as normal. So you have to, judge and balance. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as an architect, you have to take a decision which is the best scenario for it. So searches which are not secure, make it at the node level. Searches which are, like employee onboarding, employee information, which is useful across many flows, make it as requester, because that makes more sense, right? And thread scope is normal. I mean, you know, if you create a database as a thread scope, it's okay. You're just suppose you're using the info, it's a big flow and using it in multiple places, then makes sense. Otherwise, don't use it. Okay. So guys, actually I have a demo at 8 o'clock for the new students. So I need to actually log off, right? So can I take the class tomorrow, guys? Sorry for today.
Yeah, that's okay. No problem.
Yeah, because there'll be few students waiting out there, new guys, they won't know. So I'll just try to. Yeah, so theoretically this is covered. We'll see how to create a database tomorrow, and then
Okay.
we'll take it ahead.
Okay.
I'll send you the recording. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Shiva. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Bye. You too.